Right here, right here. All right.
Oh, hey, so I have
You have to get space here. Okay, you're okay with that.
Either side.
How about this?
Thank you.
you're here. Well, thank all of you for joining us today. Let me start by thanking my colleagues who've worked so hard to get this bill to the place it's at. We're glad to have the Small Business Administrator, Linda McMahon, with us today, as well as the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council President and CEO, Karen Kerrigan. Certainly, Karen's brought a number of people here today who know they're going to be affected by this bill in a positive way, who look forward to seeing the next steps as we get this closer to being on the President's desk. I'm convinced that's going to happen. I'm convinced it's going to happen this year. I'm also convinced that when it does happen, no one will have been more responsible for getting this tax bill on the President's desk than the Majority Leader of the Senate, Senator McConnell.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you. Well, thank you much, Senator Blunt. It's great to see all of you. We're on the cusp of a great victory for the country, and particularly for small business. We're happy to have Linda McMahon here, and I'm particularly pleased to have Alan Keck from Somerset, Kentucky, one of our great small business people who you'll be hearing from shortly. We're in the stretch. You know, horse racing is kind of a big deal in Kentucky. We're going down the home stretch, headed toward the finish line either late tonight or early tomorrow. What's in this for the American people and for small businesses, obviously, is tax relief, an opportunity to hire more people, to build more of America, and to get the growth rate up. And the growth rate's already beginning to tick up, as you've noticed on these last few quarters, in anticipation of what we're about to do, and also in recognition of the great deregulatory efforts that have already been going on during this administration. So I congratulate all these successful small business persons, and we're going to make them even more successful. Thank you so much.
Administrator.
Well, I'd like to echo a little bit of what Senator McConnell had to say. I'm Linda McMahon. I'm the Administrator of Small Business Administration. And, you know, I've often said if you want to know what small businesses think, ask them. So I have been out really crisscrossing the country. Since May, I've been in about 25 states. I have spoken to over 450 individual small businesses. I've conducted business roundtables, and I have toured small businesses. And without fail, each of them has said to me, tax cuts is one of the single biggest things that you can give us to help us grow our business. And we will take that money and reinvest it in our business. We'll hire that next employee or employees. We'll add the location. We'll add equipment. We'll do what we want to do. We're entrepreneurs. Our goal is to grow our business. And to grow our business, we need more money in our pockets. And if you give us tax cuts, that's what we'll do, or if tax cuts are passed. So I'm bringing that message back to Washington, advocating on behalf of the almost 30 million small businesses around our country. Imagine if they get tax cuts and grow their businesses and start new businesses, how we're going to really continue to grow our economy. Small businesses are the backbone of this economy, so we want to do all we can to support them and help them to grow. So really happy to be here this morning, and we're hoping the wind's at their back. Thanks very much. And Senator Thune.
Senator Capito.
So, Senator Capito.
Thank you. Well, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you all for taking time from your businesses, because I know you're the driving force in your business, and one day out is tough on a small business. So we appreciate the fact that you've come to Washington to have your voices heard. The administrator has done a wonderful job traveling the country. We've been in and out of our states and all different types of businesses to talk about the very same things that she said, and that is hardworking small businesses and what the impact tax relief will have on them and tax cuts. Today we have, and I hope he gets here, imagine he's kind of stuck up and trying to get into the building, I can't imagine, but Matt Fisher from Your Hobby Place is a small business in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and hopefully he will be speaking here shortly. In my small business roundtables, the one thing, the few takeaways that we had were exactly what the administrator said, and that the leader said, and that Senator Blunt said. With tax relief, with tax cut, we're going to raise wages for our businesses, because we're going to raise wages for our employees, because in order to keep employees that are well-trained and we want to have in our businesses, we've got to pay them to show them their worth so they don't, A, go somewhere else, or B, try to find another occupation because the pay is not commensurate with their experience. So I'm excited today in my state or across the nation, 95% of business is small business. In my state, a small state, it's higher than that. Over 50% of the people working in private businesses are small business employees. It's critical that they get the tax relief that they deserve. This is money that they've earned to put back into their businesses, really their lifeblood in a lot of cases. Some of them family businesses, but some of them startup businesses with great ideas. So I am very, very excited about what we're going to do today with the leadership. Categorizing this as a horse race, I think we're on the winning horse, and I think we're going to pull it through at the very end. So with that, I would like to introduce my colleague from the state of Mississippi, Senator Wicker. And
thank you, Shelley. It's great to be here with my colleagues, and great to be here with Administrator McMahon. I think we all agree that President Trump chose wisely in selecting Linda McMahon for this job, this important job. She knows how to create jobs in small business. She knows how to make a success, and she's made a success during her first year on the job for the taxpayers. And so we're delighted to be here with her today. It is a bipartisan agreement. We don't have a lot of bipartisan agreements, but we do have bipartisan agreement that small business drives this economy. And what is good for small business is good for this economy. And we up here today are here to tell you that this tax bill that we hope to advance on to the conference committee tonight or early tomorrow is going to be good for job creation and good for small business. So what we thought we'd like to do is just bring a few small business people here and tell them how they've run the numbers on the provisions in the bill, how they've looked at how they will affect their ability to create jobs and run their businesses, and tell why they believe that this is indeed the ticket for getting the economy going. So it's my pleasure to present Karen Kerrigan. She's President and CEO of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council, and she's going to introduce you and talk about some scenarios with real live people creating jobs in small business. So, Karen, come ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Administrator McMahon, all the senators who are here this morning for your support of America's small businesses, its entrepreneurs, and everything that you are doing on the policy side to get our economy back to strong and sustained growth. That is really important for healthy small business growth. It's vitally important to the millions and millions of Americans, individuals, and families out there who need and want financial security. It's also important in building the confidence, as you said, Administrator McMahon, for people who want to start businesses in this country. We've had weak entrepreneurship and new business creation over the past decade. 3.4 million missing businesses, and we need that strong growth, the confidence, the capital, if people are going to take that risk and start a business. So this tax package is very, very important to all of that. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is a powerful, powerful bill that will fuel small business growth and entrepreneurship across America. If you look at the tax relief alone, and the lower rates on the pass-through provision, that's going to unleash $360 billion, more than $360 billion in capital that all of these small business owners need to invest in their firms, to grow their firms, of their workers and provide them with more benefits. That coupled with some really strong expensing provisions, again, is going to enable investment, which is very, very important for productivity and wage growth. So there's so many elements of this package that are really very, very important to our members and to small business owners across the country. And we are urging every senator to vote for this important piece of legislation. Again, it's vital. Growth is the big picture here. And how do we get back to strong and sustained growth? If we get that, we're going to fuel the confidence and the optimism that Americans and small business owners have right now, and that's going to lead even to more growth, more job creation, more entrepreneurship in 2018 and beyond. So I'm going to introduce the real stars of today, and first I'm going to bring up Alan Keck, who's president of Somerset Recycling from Somerset, Kentucky. Alan. Great to see you, Alan.
My name's Alan Keck. I am president of Somerset Recycling, a small business in Somerset, Kentucky. I'm also the founder of Keck Sports Management, a professional baseball agency in Kentucky. And I'm humbled and honored to be here today, to be with these fine senators and Leader McConnell, of course, from my home state of Kentucky. I'm extremely proud to be here. But I want to talk about tax reform in a little different light today. As a small business owner in rural America, living in one of the poorest congressional districts in America, as a small business owner, we're expected to wear many, many hats. You know, you have to be deeply engaged in your local community. As a proud father of 3 daughters, I'm expected to be everywhere for my family, to be a husband and a father. I'm involved in my church. It's not just running a business. So when I look at tax reform, I see 2 things. The tax cuts are wonderful. I could talk to you about how that's going to free up capital. It's going to allow me to invest in new equipment, which it will. That's all real, and we're excited about that. But I want to touch on something that might be a little bit more personal. The compliance that we have as small business owners, that we have to face, the regulatory burden, the tax simplification in this reform is what excites me. Because every hour I don't have to waste dealing with that is an hour at home with my daughters, is an hour at church serving in my youth group. Perhaps for many of you it's an hour on a lazy boy reading a book that you care about. But we spend billions of dollars. We have thousands or hundreds of thousands of man hours, woman hours dealing with this compliance issue. And it's wasteful. It's silly. And so I'm excited. Again, I'm humbled to be a part of this, to represent small business in Kentucky and here today. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity and look forward to it passing. Thank you so much.
Is Matt with us yet? Matt Fisher? Oh, Matt. Oh, there you are. You came through the back door. Okay, Matt Fisher is a business owner, Your Hobby Place from Martinsburg, West Virginia. Great to see you.
Hey, like she said, my name's Matt Fisher, and with my father, we run 2 small hobby shops, and we employ 7 people across our 2 shops, not counting our family. And it's great to be here with so many fellow job creators here in our nation's capital and in support of pro-growth tax reform. Like the vast majority of small businesses, Your Hobby Place believes that tax reform is vital to the future of our company and the economy as a whole. For too long, the kinds of businesses that line our main streets and create good local jobs have suffered under a tax code built for a previous generation of businesses. For this generation of businesses, this is the best opportunity to see badly needed reforms. Whether a traditional corporation or a pass-through business, our tax rates are too high, and high taxes make it unnecessarily challenging to compete in an increasingly globalized economy or to even turn a meaningful profit. At the same time, the tax code is so complex that almost all small businesses need to put considerable time and money towards tax compliance year after year. Wouldn't these resources be better spent being reinvested into our businesses, employees, and communities? We've experienced all these challenges at Your Hobby Place. And under pro-growth tax reform, we can create more jobs, adding employees that will allow us to move on future plans of expansion and community outreach. The tax code is seriously outdated, unbelievably complicated, and imposes far too high of a financial burden on American businesses. Small businesses like ours can drive wage growth for hardworking employees and grow the economy with tax reforms. Congress, the time to pass pro-growth tax reform is now. Small businesses cannot deliver on our potential if we continue to operate under a tax system that creates roadblocks to our success. Let's get real tax reform passed so real American businesses can get our country back to work and in the long term sustain prosperity. Thank you.
And finally, we have Chico Evans, who'll talk about the importance of this tax package to American workers. He is the general manager here in Washington, D.C., at Home Depot. He also told me he wants to be an entrepreneur, so maybe there's more money in his pocket that he can put into his new business. So, Chico.
Good morning, everyone. Administrator McMahon, Senator Blunt, and everybody gathered here today. I just want to say it's an honor to be here today. Right? As you think about, the things that need to get done for small business taxes and what this bill will do once this gets passed. As I think about, the associates at my particular store and the small contractors that shop in my store, which is a significant part of our business, and how this bill is going to impact them and make their jobs a lot easier in the sense of being able to add additional equipment, be able to grow their business, do all of these other different things that I think is critical to our economy and as well as for America. So, I'm proud to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, and I look forward for this getting passed. Thank you.
Great. We're going to stay for a couple of questions. We have time for a couple of questions if anybody has them. I would say that both of our small business representatives here today mentioned the complexity of the code, all the money that is invested in just complying with the tax code. So simplification matters. How you keep the books matters, as the tax code requires you to. Being more competitive. And standing here thinking about our bigger corporations that in many cases largely become assembly plants for things that come from small business and automobiles and airplanes. The more we compete effectively around the world, and we have a tax structure now that is significantly disadvantages us. 35 years ago or 30 years ago, 31 years ago in 1986, when the tax code was changed, our corporate rate was right in the middle of the countries we compete with. Now it's at the very top of the countries we compete with. Doesn't mean it was a wrong rate for 1986. It means it's a wrong rate for 2017 and the next 25 or 30 years. There's a reason this doesn't happen very often. And one of the reasons is that people who create jobs and make investments need to the maximum capacity possible to be able to rely on the tax code that is in place and know that it'll be there for a while. I think this is a tax code that the test of time is going to show exactly what needs to happen. In Missouri, where I live, 97% of all the businesses are small businesses. The jobs created are created there. But all of that thrives, as President Kennedy said, a rising tide lifts all boats. So the stronger the economy is here, this is not a competition between segments of the economy. It's a competition between us and other countries. And with regulatory reform, with the rule of law you can rely on if you have to go to court to find out how the law is going to be enforced, and with good tax policy, we'll outcompete any country in the world. And so we're all excited about what can happen today and then what happens over the next few days as the House and Senate come together. There are things in the House bill that aren't in the Senate bill that will be in the final bill. There are things in our bill that aren't in the House bill that will be in the final bill. And I think we're going to see a product that allows us to compete at all levels in ways we're not allowed to compete today. So a couple of questions. Yes. I think there's great confidence on our side that the expectations of growth in the tax bill are well below what growth will actually produce. So if we have to have some kind of trigger to ensure some of our members that aren't quite as confident of that, I think it will be a trigger that we can deal with. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not in the discussions as to what that trigger will look like, but I am in discussions with lots of economists who believe that the growth projections that we'd have to meet for the reconciliation bill to be successful are well below the likely growth that we'll see if we pass this bill. Yes, sir.
Senator, two of your Republican colleagues at least have expressed concern that the bill as it stands in the Senate right now doesn't do enough for small businesses versus what it would
Well, within the constraints of having to deal with tax policy, every member of the House and of the Senate will have a chance to amend the bill today. Though I do think the two members you mentioned yesterday think that they have achieved a significant improvement in the bill already. The equity between small business and big corporations, I've always thought was the hardest thing to achieve in the bill, and to write it in a way that it does what you hope it will do without being taken advantage of by other people who suddenly decide that they've been working for somebody for a long time, but they want to become a small business. That's not the purpose of trying to equalize competition here. So I think Senator Johnson, Senator Daines both had a good point. I think they have both added to the process, and now we'll take what comes out of the Senate hopefully today and look at what the House wanted to do, doing this a slightly different way. And I think we're going to come up with a good balance on pass-through businesses versus, some of which are very big, by the way, versus corporations. Chuck?
Senator, given the criticism of the importance of passed without any Republican vote, how concerned are you that if this passes without any Democratic votes, that it's going to be looked at in the same way by the country as not a bipartisan compromise bill that comes up in the end? And secondly, do you think there is a chance that you're going to get some Democratic votes?
Well, I think this is a bill that a number of Democrats in the Senate should vote for. I think this is a bill that several Democrats in the House may vote for. You know, it's better to move forward with a bipartisan effort than a partisan effort, but sometimes you just have to move forward. Waiting for something that wouldn't happen here, a tax bill that would grow the economy, that would have broad support maybe in the middle of the Congress, but wouldn't really do what needs to be done, I think would have been a mistake. So I think we're doing what needs to be done in the only way it could be done. Any questions for the administrator or any of my other colleagues?
Hi, I'm Camille Haney from Wisconsin, a longtime small business owner, and I just want to thank the SBA for showing up as an advocate for small business because this tax reform is really needed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all.
There we go. I was glad I was kind of